Sorry, it's just getting a very wide angle.
I'm subconscious.
Don't be self-conscious
No,
about
I'm
your.
trying.
Sorry.
I'm being
I am.
facetious, I'm sorry.
Oh. See, I don't care. Like, it's what I'm eating. So I guess what we're doing is we're like taking stock of what is. We are imagining what it could be, and then we're making a plan for what.
What?
Yeah, we're gonna make a plan, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a stock of what is actually occurring, what is actually happening. Then we're gonna be imaginative and think about what could be, and think about what should be. And then we're going to speculate on what might be, what we can do. And this is all gonna be related to assessment. Assessment in the secondary music classroom. It is like a crazy, sort of jumbled up mess. I have some questions for all of you, because you have relatively recently come from secondary ensemble classes. I mean, what, for some of you, maybe 4 years ago total, most. So you have a decent memory of how things were done. But if you had to say, if you had to posit a suggestion about what you think the most commonly graded criteria is in a secondary ensemble class, in a performance-based class like band, chorus, or orchestra, think back to what you were graded on, or in any programs you've been volunteering in during your time here, if you've ever looked at what those kids get graded on. What do they get graded on most often?
Being there.
Participation, I'm hearing. I also heard being there, so we're gonna call that attendance.
The notes on the page, what they're playing, are supposed to be playing.
Okay, so participation, attendance, and would you call that, like, do they do playing exams for that? Heaven?
Sure.
Or do you?
Yeah.
How many of you actually had some kind of playing exam?
Infrequently, but yes.
Infrequent, but yes.
Yeah.
Sightseeing, like.
So there were, I'll put next to playing exams, we'll call them infrequent, and then we'll have sight singing, because I think that is different, because I think there's an assumption, I'm gonna make this assumption, you tell me if I'm wrong, that a playing exam is usually something for which you are allowed time to prepare, and you're playing material that you have had the opportunity to work, but a sight singing exam is something where it just, hey, read this. How often would you say those would have happened?
Not that, like we would do practice with sightseeing, but like as far as like actually getting like evaluated on it, maybe like twice or 3 times a semester.
2 or 3 times a semester. Believe it or not, I know you guys are, what's your impression of this? Well, let me, before we move on to that, are there other criteria you think that are graded on? Let's go to the things that are done less frequently now. If we say participation, attendance,
Practice logs.
practice logs.
Yeah, there was practice log.
We
Yeah,
had,
middle school in particular.
we had, terms and rhythm tests.
Oh, shoot. We
So
have
you had a terms and rhythms test. Was it like a paper
separately-
pencil thing?
Yeah, like separate terms tests and like separate rhythm tests.
That's true.
Anybody else have like a written exam component?
When-
Let's call that written exam.
Our
We always
final
had a
with,
final
like,
exam,
yeah.
and I was always a little bit, we never did any written stuff during the rest of the semester until the final exam. It didn't seem quite right to me.
What did y'all
Our
write
school
on?
required
No, it
every
was just-
class
it was
to have
like
written
theory
final
stuff. It was
exam,
like-
so she taught us theory stuff, and now it's
Right
our
out of the
final.
names.
Yeah.
my chorus teacher on the
all
other
that
hand
stuff,
was
and then
killer
Like,
at
just
incorporating.
And then it was which
written-
clef is
She did written,
She did
he,
tons of theory.
I just was a bad person, I assumed it was a lady.
It
I'm
was.
sorry. But that's a terrible assumption
You're
to
good.
make, I'm sorry.
You're good. Yeah, she incorporated
My
tons
first
and tons
teacher
of
did as
theory,
well.
but I wasn't there all the time because we did band, of course.
Yeah, that type of sharing, I didn't mind sharing because it meant that I would have awesome kids that would be able to do it. And we would do we'd do a 3 and a 2 and then 3 and a 2. We just
I don't know what 3 and 2 means for sure.
3 days a week at one, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Oh,
We had a bell ringer.
We split a half period in half every day.
Oh, rad, that's
45
I
minutes
don't know why I
apiece.
said we had a bell ringer because it's not
not so bad. How many of you had something like that? Like, were the bell ringers that you guys did graded?
Yeah, they were.
Would we call that like written assignments?
I don't know, because basically my course teacher and I were pretty close. She would ask me to like help other students. So she basically said she did these so that they would read music instead of just not reading choir, because it was hard like incorporating how to do that. So I would just say it was more an attempt to get them to learn about music than like it's a written assignment. Like, I don't know.
But
if it makes sense.
if she had to catalog it as like a type of assessment, I mean, she was assessing their ability to do it.
Yeah.
Or was it like a guided practice type of thing that
It
didn't
just
have a grade?
depended. Yeah, it just depended.
Anybody else have any kind of other written assignments that were done?
By
on the
bell
way?
ringer, do you mean like something that you do when you first start coming to class and sit down?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have that sometimes. She'd be like, go grab this off the piano or whatever, and then we'd work on it until class started, and then we would like go over to the class.
Okay.
My
So
senior
it wasn't,
year-
I wouldn't, I guess it wasn't really a assessment. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was done.
Oh, okay. Like my senior year, my band director started incorporating this thing where he would have like a slide presentation of like the entire time, and it had different like music history facts, different theory type stuff, and like he incorporated like, I guess he kind of had to do stuff for like Common Core, whatever, and so he had different like ways how music and science went together, how like music history stuff, and like different techniques on how to breathe or something like that. And then like we would listen to like a piece of music or either a song while we were doing stretches, and then he would like not test us but kind of quiz us on the information that was on there. So I mean that was kind of we call it our focus time or whatever.
Do you know if you were ever assigned a grade for it? I'm just curious. Not everything has to have a grade assigned to it, I just don't know if it was. Since I'm-
Probably. I mean, people led the stretches, and I mean, I guess if you didn't do the stretches, you kind of fell for that part of the participation. It's more of a participation grade, and if he called on you, then you
Then you
answered the
didn't do it.
question.
Yeah. Got it, okay. That gives me a basic picture. Would you say that there's anything missing from, do you want me to read the list to just kind of see if we have all the things that were maybe covered? It was participation, attendance, playing exams, infrequent, sight singing, 2 to 3 times a semester, practice logs, mostly middle school, written exam, usually most people have 1 final, written assignments.
I had, I mean, for written assignments, I had like some CD reviews that we had to do, but that was just for jazz band. That wasn't actually.
Just an occasion,
That
it's a different
We
class.
didn't actually keep it up throughout the semester, which really bummed me out, but
Sounds like a fun thing.
it was fun.
My vendor, he did a lot of crap. Gosh. He gave us the like, we would have projects, like a big project or whatever, and he would want us to research stuff like a marching band concept show for like the fall, and like a spring whatever thing for the spring program for our spring concert, just hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
And like we would have to write a paper with it and stuff.
Brad, a lot of fun. Well, seems like fun to me, but I'm a nerd.
I just remember when we have such thing as an honors band, which was just basically students that wanted to sign up for honors band, you just had to do extra, so, and she would assess us on that. So what we would do, we would have to pass off certain extra scales that, the rest of the band didn't have to. And then we would have to pick a piece and conduct a band on it a few times, teach it to the
That's
band
cool.
and all
So
that stuff.
what was the point?
One was to get an extra point over GPA.
Ah, got it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't catch that part.
yeah,
So I'm gonna put conducting, but honors.
yeah. I mean, that was just kind of a special thing.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not, just out of curiosity, how big was your high school and how many people would do that?
In my grade, we had, it was me, Kristen, Brittany, Dusty. So there was 4.
Yeah.
And then, but there were only 29 people in the band.
It's
So,
just one of the things where I, bless you, I was thinking about if you had a large high school and you had like a number, if you had 35 some odd people that wanted to do the honors thing, you wouldn't have enough pieces, or would you just like rotate it and say you could, bless you, if you conduct the band one day out of all the day, you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't probably be able to conduct them on a performance. That's just.
No, like you just, I mean, this was like after contest, you got like, 5 to 10 minutes a day to conduct for like 4 days until the final project.
Gotcha. Okay. This is very interesting to me. You guys have come up with a lot of, I'm actually sort of encouraged by the fact that some people actually said they took playing exams. They may have been infrequent, but like there are people actually having you guys do playing exams. Had I asked that question, had I been in a position to ask the question 10 years ago, I think it would have been much less common. All of you were like, oh yeah, playing exams, okay. We didn't do them often, but we did them. I think 10 years ago, the climate would have been very, very different for that. There were far fewer people doing that, I think. What would you say is out of all of these things, based on your experience and what you know about the people that you know who are teaching now or whatever, out of the list, let me give it to you again: participation, attendance, playing exams, sight singing, practice logs, written exams, written assignments, and conducting. If you had to look at somebody's syllabus, or if they hand out a handbook or something like that, which categories do you think you would see most commonly, and which ones would like weigh the most? If you had to say this is 80% of the kids' grade or 50%, which ones would have the largest weights? Which ones do you think would be on?
Participation would be the most.
Is that a relative agreement throughout? So you would say participation is the.
And playing exams, because they're infrequent, would probably weigh a whole lot more.
You think so?
I think so. I don't know if you
At our school, she did playing exams to scare people into like practicing. So like, I mean, they counted, but most of the time people, did what they had to do to get a good grade. So.
What do you guys think about that? What do you think about using playing exams to scare kids?
I think it's it's effective, but I don't 100% agree. Like in my high school, we did a different type of exam or test like every week or every 2 weeks. We had either a terms, rhythm, or a playing exam. So we did them pretty frequently, and eventually people got comfortable enough with playing in front of their peers just because they did it enough.
They did it often.
Yeah, so it wasn't like he would say, well, we're gonna have a pop playing quiz on this tomorrow, and it would be like, okay, well, I'll just work on that tonight. It was less of a scare tactic.
It was not a scary thing. How many of you had it used as like a scare thing? Like, you guys are doing this really bad, and tomorrow I'm gonna have everybody either sing or play in like quartets or octets or something like that, and y'all are gonna do that. Anybody ever have that happen?
That happened, but was not the main focus of our playing test. Like it happened when we just sucked and we were supposed to practice something overnight and we didn't. And she's like, okay, playing test tomorrow.
Do you think it's, like Kevin said, she said it's effective. Do you guys think it's effective?
Yeah, I do.
I think it does have some clout. Like there are some people that respond really well to intense pressure, short term, but it's not going to work for everyone.
I think they're effective like practice logs are effective.
Elaborate on that statement.
That's great.
Because you could have a student go and do a practice log, and the conscientious student will take the time to actually do it. But you'll have other kids who are going to be like, okay, I'm going to forge my signature and lie about the times that I've done this. So it will reach out to some students and it'll help with some, but you're not going to get all of them. Some students, like I was thinking, like for playing, I don't know how y'all did playing exams, but we went to the back of the room with our teacher, and she just had us do it one-on-one. So it's like, whatever happened, whatever happened. And grade, so it's like conscientious student would prepare for the playing exam, and everybody else would just sort of be like, or not everybody else, but other people would be like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, whatever happens, happens, because it's not worth a lot of grade. Would you weight playing exams more if that were the case?
I think if you made it a habit from the beginning and just said every week or every other week, we're going to have a playing exam and it's a part of your grade, and instead of making it, oh, you didn't practice, so we're going to have this, but just built it into it so you made it more of not a big deal, like it was just part of it and you just did it. I think then that would make better habits, hopefully anyways.
It's just gotta be the teacher has to be willing to go through with it the whole way, so that's some difficult parts of planning. For me, a lot of time our playing test doubled as our auditions for the next semester, so that played a little bit of role in, but kind of what Matt was hitting at is like there are some students that just wanted to be in band and they didn't care which group they were in or what part they played, and so I mean, yeah, it was nice to be in the top group, but there were some people that like they just were in band because they wanted to go on the trip every 2 years, and
What do you think about that?
Which
Chris?
is fine. I mean, I would rather them be learning music and being in the group than,
how do you adjust the playing tests so that there's more motivation for them to practice and do well?
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, if I knew the answer to that, I would have millions of dollars in the bank and I wouldn't be here doing this. Although I might still be. I've always said that if I won the lottery, I'd probably still keep my job. I love what I do, so I'd probably still be doing this. But I would be dressed much more nicely if I won the lottery, or if I knew that. If I knew the answer to that question. We're actually hitting on a conversation we've had before. We've had the conversation about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation before. Adam hit on the idea that, some kids are extrinsically motivated, well, and it's sort of intrinsic too, by the idea of wanting to feel good about the way they're playing and wanting to feel like I'm valued by being in that top group. That means something to them, and that makes them feel good. And then some kids are just kind of like, my friends are in band and this is a fun thing to do and I want to do that. I tell you, that's a lot of what happens in chorus in my thing. Hey, my girlfriend is in choir and she makes me do it, and so I'm here. And those are some of my baritones, and that's real great. And that's real nice, and I'm glad to have them, and I want to teach them, and I want them to love it. How do I make them love it for something besides being able to look at their girlfriends? I don't know. There's no magic formula or magic way that you approach it in order to make them want to be better for themselves. Some of it, I think there is something to be said for building a feeling of the group doing cool things together. I think there's a lot of building agency among them, where they feel like they make a difference and them doing well and practicing is important to the success of the group. I think there is something to be said for that. That is one of the ways that we're different from, say, the math class. The math class doesn't math together, and if one student doesn't math well, that, the rest of the class is sunk if people are not mathing at home and practicing their math. That just doesn't happen. I wish kind of that it were sometimes, because we have some great ensemble performances, and when kids get motivated to do that, they really do their best work, or whatever is within them to do. They might not all be working at the same level, but some kids, when they're hitting on all cylinders, what that sounds like for them. And it's great when you're, watching that happen. That doesn't usually happen in the math classroom. That being said, what factors do you think exist in the secondary music classroom that are different from math, science, language arts, that might affect the type of assessment that we use in our classroom? Like, why do we use participation, and why is it weighted so high in music, like ensemble-based classrooms, when they don't do that in language arts? What things are different about a high school band that is different from, AP US history?
You don't have to participate in in history as a group all the time. Like in band, yes, you can sort of slip by if you want, but like it's a homogeneous sound. Like it's a group thing. Like you can't play a piece of music if all the parts aren't there.
Yeah, and from a teacher's standpoint, like you can't accomplish what you're trying to teach in a piece of music. You know, you're trying to tell everybody to listen to other parts. Well, some people are not participating, then you can't hear the other parts. Yeah, so.
That's the problem, if your whole clarinet section goes on strike and
Yeah.
that's part of the texture, then,
Yeah.
well.
In a math class though, it's very individual based. It's like, okay, how are you doing as a learner? And yeah, I mean, they might do some group working together and that kind of stuff, but it's not even remotely the same in that aspect.
I'm kind of like what they're saying, like, in an ensemble, in a music ensemble, you don't, like, in a classroom, like a math classroom, you not participating doesn't affect other people's learning. But in an ensemble, it does. If you don't participate, and if you don't, play what you are supposed to be playing, or play it well, or sing it well, then you're affecting other people's learning, because then the teacher has to stop and take time and figure out what the problem is and all this type of stuff. But in a math class or a science class, you don't affect other people's learning. Like, it's normally, yeah, unless it's like a group project, but then even still, you're not necessary, almost.
Like somebody might
Individuals
have.
Individuals don't have value.
You can be done without, honestly, like in
From a teaching standpoint, yeah, you can teach other students without one student learning.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
you can. I mean, it's not the best way to, it's like the best
humanistically,
way.
everybody's important.
like a person doesn't, like, if Tyler decides he doesn't want to learn today,
We can work around Tyler.
yeah, it's not going to affect whether or not I'm going to learn. It's not going to affect whether or not Matt is going to learn.
Unless Tyler's our strongest tenor and the rest of the tenors listen for Tyler and they're not ready to sing.
Well, in an ensemble, then it does matter. But in a regular, like right now, if Tyler decides that he just wants to like chill, it's not gonna make any difference to me or anybody else around him, because it's not gonna affect our learning. Unless he's like jumping on the desk and doing cartwheels.
Distracted all y'all.
Yeah.
And twerking.
Look at me, you don't learn.
Unless he's twerking, then it might affect our learning. If he's twerking, it might affect us. But other than that,
Only in that situation.
What else, what other things, I mean, how else, if you just take a math classroom and a band classroom, think about the physical characteristics of it and the people in it. What changes, what affects assessment just based on that? Because we've established that ensembles are just totally different than math, science, and all that. So, what else physically? I mean, just think about the rooms. What changes your assessment? How big is a band room?
Huge.
Pretty big.
Why is it so big?
because it's more people.
There's
Yeah,
genuinely more people
Yeah,
and
correct, I
their
was about to say.
instruments
I'm hungry.
Yeah,
And a lot of
it's big.
sound.
It's a lot of sound.
Sound.
There's usually a lot of sound because there's a lot of people playing instruments. So somebody said people. How many more people would you say are in a band typically, unless you went to a small high school where there were
Yeah, that's what
29.
I was literally about to.
Tyler was kind of like 29 people. I was like, that's a regular sized classroom in today's
Yeah.
teaching environment. How many of you came from schools that had larger bands or choruses? How large? How large?
Our chorus was huge. It was like 100 people.
100 people in the choir.
But our band, like, as time went on, we grew. So we got like 20 extra people every semester, like every year. So we started like 40 or 50, and then we ended up at like 80 to 100.
There you go. That's a lot of kids. Adam?
Band was close to 200 by the time we left. And then chorus. And we had 3 different groups.
That's more than my graduating class.
And then,
Your band has more people that I graduated with.
chorus.
It's crazy.
Just a lot of people. Was it still
I'm
a lot?
trying to think. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was probably 80 total, but there was 2 or 3 different groups.
Yours was
Oh.
29 in your band.
Yeah, my junior year was 24. That was senior year. We had 29.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah. Chorus, the chamber choir had like, I was about the same as the band, I guess. Pretty, because of the chamber choir. And then they had 2 other choirs, like a beginning and intermediate in the chamber choir. And I don't know, there was about 40 in each of them.
40 in
And
each.
they were all different people. And then the orchestra had more than the band. They had like 50.
50.
Yeah.
50 people.
Just because,
Katie, how about yours, the ensembles you participated in?
My high school band probably, like, marching band wise, including color guard, we probably had like 35 people. That was everyone. And then our choir was a lot larger. We had our audition choir, which had 20 people, 5 on a part. And then, like, we had a normal choir, because our honors choir met outside of normal choir. And we had 2 class periods of people who just wanted to take the class, essentially for an A. So I guess with all those, that was probably like 80 maybe.
We're gonna save that phrase, take it for the A, or like, we're gonna play that forward in a upcoming episode. Like, take it for the A. Hannah, how about the ones that you were involved in?
I was just mostly involved in orchestras, not in school, but I don't know.
70, 80?
What high school did you go to?
Matt?
No, totally.
I don't know, there was more in the program.
I've just been in
Our
professional
class
orchestra.
had about 40.
Really though?
And how about your chorus?
Like the top part of my school probably had at least 40 kids in it, but then like the freshman choir was huge.
Yeah.
And then we also had, well, it changed, because like my freshman year we had like an advanced, which was like a mixed group, and then it changed to women's, and then it changed back to advanced, and I think now it's back to women's or whatever, but it was also pretty like sizable, but the top one was a little bit smaller, I guess, just because like it was like audition.
So 40 was that one.
Yeah.
About how much bigger would you say the,
Like the freshmen, I'd say they probably had like, geez, I'm trying to like see them on stage and like think of how many there are. Maybe like 60 kids or something like that,
Okay.
60 to 70. I don't
60 or
know.
70?
There's a lot of them because yeah.
So if you have 60 or 70 people, let's take that as sort of like a middle, because some of our smaller ensembles have in like the 20s or 30s. Some of our largest ensembles are somewhere in like the 90s or 100s, unless we're talking marching bands. I went to a high school that had a marching band that was 196 people strong, and that is big. So for a second, let's pretend that it's not a marching band. Let's pretend that it's even, I think there are requirements at like MPA and stuff about how many people you can have on stage in a concert band. And I think it's right around 90. It's like 80 or 90 people you can have in a concert band. And so that as our top number, let's take a middle ground for around 60, 65. Imagine an ensemble of your choosing, be it orchestra, be it band, be it chorus. Imagine that in your brain. Okay, now think about the type of assessments, the practical assessments that you say, I have to prepare these children for performance. I want to teach through performance, and I want to assess their knowledge. I want to know what they know about these things I want to teach. Knowing that it's not just what comes out of the end of the horn, or out of their fingers, or out of their mouths. Knowing that it's more than that. Does that overwhelm anybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well then, you're like a normal person, you're a normal human being if you feel overwhelmed by the idea of trying to find that out about 65 people. Does it make sense why some people give such a heavy weight to participation? How do you think, imagine, and this is what it feels like when you do it, when it happens to you, if it happens to you. You know, in like movies or TV shows, when they show somebody like in a dark room with like a lamp hanging over their head in a police station and like a bare table and like a cop, "Rah, tell me what I want to know." That's kind of what it feels like when somebody says to you, "Why did my child get a B in your class?" When how you weight your grade is participation. When it's the main weight of your grade. When a parent says to you, why did my child get a B? Did you take a daily participation grade? How many of you think, just by a show of hands, that, and how many of you had participation as a grade in your high school ensemble? Okay. How many of you think that your high school ensemble director graded every child in that classroom on participation every day? Yes? You could, like, look and you were like, and I
Well,
wasn't.
she always was like, if somebody did something wrong, she was like, "Oh, your grade's docked," and then like so she would act like she would.
I feel like it'd be more of a, like, okay, everyone seems like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but like when somebody's not playing something right or talking or something like that, then they make a note to dock their grade, like more of a, if someone's not participating, they put more
So
focus on that.
everyone starts with
Whatever.
100 for the day. We're assuming, has anybody ever heard that language before? Start with 100 for the day, but then if you don't do, you know, I take off this many points if you do this, or if you don't do.
The worst is when you have a college professor who says everyone starts with a 0.
That makes me sad.
Yes.
I do agree
That's
that
happened.
people, they earn, what it bothers me when people say that I gave you a grade. Note that that's the language that I had the parent using, by the way, because that's how they feel that it is. It's not that their child earned, it's that you gave, by the way, and it's always that way. You always have to make sure that when you're sitting at the table and the lamp is over your head, that you make sure to switch the language and that it is about the child earning what they earned. Because you all earn things in my class, I give you jack squat. I mean, I evaluate what you give me. You earn what you earn. I mean, that's how I operate. I mean, I set forth standards and say, here's what you have to hit, and then you do it or you don't do it. And, you know, that's you. It's not me. I'm not taking myself entirely out of the process, but I would think that most people usually, based on the way that I grade, go, oh, this is, you know, there's very little confusion in that. Thank the Lord, because I've had some people where there's like formulas and slide rules and all sorts of equations that are scary, and you don't even know how the grade is actually calculated. Those things kind of scare me. But there was a point here, what was it? Talk about sitting at the table and everything and changing the language into what kids are. But we were talking about participation grades, daily participation grades, and what they are. How accurate, if you're sitting at the table and Jim Bob's mama comes into you and wants to know what Jim Bob got a B, how accurate are your records? Can you show mama, this is why Jim Bob got a B? I docked him on this day and this day and this day because he didn't do X, Y, Z. Right? Well, imagine, like, you're not parents and none of you are close to being parents. So, you know, let's imagine for a second, like imagine yourself though. Like your little flesh and blood, your little people, your little person, and they're in school. And they come home with stuff on their report card that shows that they weren't, you know what I mean? You've never heard otherwise. That there's, you know, but all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey, Jim Bob got a C minus.
In band.
You want to know why C minus? You want to know why Jim Bob got a C minus, right?
Get a jump on.
I'm sorry, name of your choice. Now that I'm assuming you all are going to name your children. If one of you names your child Jim Bob, though, write me and tell me.
I personally know a guy who goes by Jim Boy.
Yes, I love this.
Personally.
The papa of the Duggars' name is Jim Bob.
That's true. Back to the assessment portion of that. How many of you feel like you could, based on your high school persons, how many of you feel like, yeah, she could justify it? We could sit on the other side of that table and say to mama, to angry Jim Bob's mama, this is why Jim Bob gotta be. You feel like yes?
One of them, yeah.
Yeah, one of them, you're like, yeah, you could do that. So, do you think it's possible, throwing it out there, do you think it's possible to be able to justify that based on participation? Can you do it? Is it, well, okay, all of you are shaking your head. Do any of you think conceivably that it's possible to do it, regardless of whether you would do it personally?
Yeah.
I think it is possible, yeah.
It's possible. How many of you would do it?
What, like,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Like, this would be your main, like, you would have it be worth 80%, a large portion of the grade.
I'll make it part.
It's scary.
Yeah, that would scare me, I feel like.
That would scare you?
I would be afraid that that would happen and I would have like missed something and then, because there's so many kids.
Want to know why I changed my in my handbook? Want to know why? Want to know why I changed from having to take 75-80% of my grade based on participation? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because Gym Bob is real. Gym Bob's real. Like, that's real. The names and faces have been changed to protect the
Identity.
some of that is me, some of that is them. The ignorant is me. And I just thought, oh, well, that's just how it's always been done. I mean, everything that I've ever seen said, yeah, participation, attendance, show up at concerts and you won't fail. Show up in class every day, have your music, have a pencil, don't screw around, you'll get an A. We're going to return to the episode on this next episode of the world, As the World Turns, or whatever soap opera is still on TV nowadays.
Young and restless.
Yeah, how many people take a class just for an A?
A lot of times.
I did.
Here.
There.
Go ahead.
This might be related, I think it might be, let's see. My course teacher is retiring in May, and I talked to, I think it was her husband, and he said that one of the main reasons she was retiring, other than she's just been working a while, is that she doesn't want to have to keep up with all of the additions and standards and all that kind of stuff, and she probably has some problems with Common Core, I don't really know. But it seemed to me that of all of the music teachers that I've had, that she seemed the one to have it most together in terms of assessment of learning music in like other ways, because she was giving these tests and quizzes and actually teaching like elements of music and that kind of thing. And like it just blows my mind that
Even the hardiest will say,
yeah,
I'm out.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
no, that's a
I
real
don't get
thing.
that.
Don't try really hard not to let it discourage you. I can't do a lot to assuage your like make you guys feel better about that, because it's horribly frustrating. And you're gonna be working with a bunch of people that don't understand what you do. Like, none of these people know what you do. We've discussed this in the elementary class. They think you just play and sing and hop around and dance like a bunch of fools all day. They don't realize that there's actual music learning going on. And that's so what it is in the secondary classrooms. They assume that your entire purpose, and one of the reasons you're totally disposable, by the way, is because you're not doing anything that they can't get in their church choir, or in a community orchestra, or in the honors band that plays with, the local Who's-Its. Like, you don't give them anything else that they can't get somewhere else.
No, the problem is because there are teachers out there that do that.
Can I frame that, like, I need to make sure that I have that and that can play all the time. The only reason that it is that way is because, yes, that is some people's that is why they exist. And some of you sang or played or whatever for those people. You might be thinking, does that make them bad? Are they the devil? No, they're not the devil, they just don't know any better. You know what I mean? They just didn't know any better. And people this is fun, it's great. Why should kids not want to do this? It should be a great thing for them to do. There's nothing wrong with kids having fun and performing and being good at it. And I know sometimes that's hard to separate out, because you guys see me occasionally sprout the rhetoric of it's not just about the performance. Well, of course performance is still fun. It still means something to kids, and even to me, even to my cold, dead heart in my body. I still love when kids sing a fantastic piece of choral music really, really well. It makes me happy, and I get energized by it, and I enjoy it. And there's nothing wrong with me because of that. Feeling about music is not bad. It's just when that's the only thing that there is. That's, yes, they can get that somewhere else. What do they need you for? They need to have you in school for that. They can't math anywhere else. There are no local math clubs that these kids can join to math outside.
that.
That's, look, mathletes only exist in high school. I don't know any
Hey.
mathlete club.
Chess clubs?
No, my friend, her brother goes to this program, this crap. I do not.
Is it like
remember.
Sylvan or something?
It's not Sylvan, but it's like they focus on math.
They math together.
They math
And they're
together.
like adults that math together?
No, it's like kids. They math together. They're teaching kids how to do the new math.
I think that's, oh, wait,
Oh,
like
God.
core math?
No, like it's like every math. Like they can't use calculators or their hands. It's like magic math.
It's I got the hiccups. It's magic math.
Like you can't use. It's so scary. He showed me a problem, and I was like, "Oh my god, that would have taken me 3 hours." But he did it like in his head for some type of mathematical addition, division,
I think
Swear-
it's fantastic that they're mathing outside of class.
and
Like,
it's like
I think it's great.
a thing his parents pay for.
But note that we're all astounded that this exists, right? Like, we're astounded that kids are mathing outside of school. This is one of the hardest parts about it, is that there are people that are like, nope, this is not what I signed up for. I have been doing this I've been doing these assessments, I've been doing this stuff because it's what I need to do to stay alive in school. I need to keep the administrative monkey off my back. That's why I do it. As opposed to it actually being a tool for which you're supposed to learn about what your kids know. What is assessment for, really, at the end of the day? A lot of people in our positions as music teachers, they believe that it is to keep the administrative monkey off their back. I gotta do this so that my principal does not bug me, so my principal doesn't bother me. I've gotta do this so that I can submit data that says that, yes, I'm doing my job and I know what I'm doing and student learning is occurring. It should mean something to you on the inside when we say, like, an assessment is near and dear to my heart. I don't know if you guys know this or not. It's one of the places that I actually get really excited about it, which I realize makes me way nerdier than I was 5 seconds ago. But it's the reason that it's important to me is because what I find out from good assessments helps me be a better teacher and helps my kids learn more. I mean, that's what assessments really are for. So how do you, we've sort of decided that there are some barriers in the music classroom to us being able to do some of the things that can be done in like math or in a lab in science. Now, you can set high school kids in a lab, in a science lab, and say, okay, here are your directions. Make sure that you, like, safety first, people, no open-toed shoes, and put on your safety goggles, and, don't spill hydrochloric acid on yourself. Like, you can set them up and make sure that everything works out okay. And then you can, like, set them off with dangerous chemicals and tell them to go do things. And then you can watch them do it and see what they have, like, there's self-directed learning happening there, and they get to experiment. We don't get to do that very often. Or do we? Or do we just not? Because we don't know how. Because we were discussing this yesterday in student teaching seminar. Take out the past 5 minutes where I've been talking a lot. How much have I been talking?
We talked a good bit for ourselves. I actually noticed that we were all talking and you were just kind of letting us go, which is
Well, based on what you know of me as a control freak, what do you think about that? Do you think do you think it's easy for me to do that?
No.
I think you like talking a lot.
Yeah,
But there's nothing wrong with that.
I love to talk, and I'm mad at myself for having just talked as much as I did. Like, I'm looking back in my own, like, momentary reflective loop, saying, oh, I wish you hadn't have said that. There's so much more you could know about what they know had you just shut your mouth for 5 seconds. Like, I so just played that tape in my head. I wish that I hadn't. Oh well, like I can't. I learned a lot about what you guys thought and what you knew and what you had experienced just by letting you do the thing. And it's really hard for me to do that because I could have just started this lesson off by saying, participation and attendance are two of the most often used and highest weighted, blah, 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 blah. I could have told you all of that stuff. I could have said everything that you guys found out for yourselves.
Class would have been over in 10 minutes.
Class would have been over in 10 minutes. Do you think it means more? I don't know. Does it mean more to you when you say it? When you uncover for yourself and make the connection that I want you to make without me making it for you?
Well, it makes our brain go through a process, you know, figuring something out. I mean, so, yeah, I think it does mean more just because we have to actually think instead of having information and memorize, you know, memorizing and understanding are two different things.
And it's applicable because when you're teaching, you're gonna have to do those same things, but not in the context of a classroom where somebody's gonna be.
I think it gives us an opportunity to process and judge what we think about it as we're voicing our opinion.
I feel like I'm definitely more like likely to like remember it and like hold on to that because like if someone's just like telling me and I like take notes, whatever, and then if I go back and look at those notes, then I'll like refresh my memory. But if it's something like I came up with and like I said it or whatever, then I feel like it's more likely to stick in my mind.
It's personal.
Makes any sense.
I think we also learn more from the people that we're gonna be, like, we might not be working in the same exact area, but we're gonna be working with people, like, that have different ideas than ours and that have different ways of being taught and, like, different ways of teaching. And so we learn more, like, I learned more about what other high school ensembles did because I'd only been to mine and, like, a few others, but I learned more about other good ensembles and, like, I feel like you learn more from other perspectives and other people talking as well.
Let's imagine for a second, really quickly, and I'm going to make very obvious a transfer in just a second. Imagine driving a car and being given only the manual on how to operate it. And you're not even allowed to read the manual. You just have an instructor that comes into a class and reads you the manual and tells you how to drive a car. But you have no in-car portion. You can discuss nothing about how to drive a car with anybody else in the class. Go take your driving test. How well will you do?
It's on the rail.
Yeah, you've had no practical experience steering the car and like pushing down the accelerator and seeing what that feels like. All of you said things. You said, it means more to me when I do, we go through a mental process that I get to hear what other people, all these statements, replay what everyone else just said in your head right now. Apply that to the kids in your ensemble. Those are your students. Your students, you're acting in that role right now. You are them. So you have to make available for them the opportunities for them to do what you just did. This is the very explicit transfer part where you're gonna transfer now your experience as students in a class like this where you get the opportunity to talk through this stuff and do that. Okay, but I'm about to throw a crappy roadblock in your way. This is a class full of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. 7 people, 7 people, 65 people.
That you have to use to put on a concert,
Which we totally don't have to do.
wait, yeah.
Let's secondary music on the departmental. That's We're gonna theoretical at you, roll Orff ensemble in your face. Like, okay, we don't have that goal. So how do we take the good things that we get from a class, sorry, I'm patting myself on the back, the good thing that happens that you guys are learning and doing right now, how do you make that a thing for your students? How do you make that real for them where they get to do that? At a level that's developmentally appropriate for them, of course, because some of them are not going to be able to do exactly the same things that you can do. And some of the things are going to be different. They're not going to be putting together like seriously abstract theoretical concepts. They're going to be trying to play B flat major scale. But, you know, I digress. How do you make that happen for them? So we've
It's
just,
the,
so here's
that's the
our
question.
journey. Remember at the very beginning, I said, we're gonna talk about what is. We're going to talk about what could/should be, because I think right now we have a good idea of what we want for them. In your perfect world, in a perfect world where you have all the time that you want, where you have all the resources that you need, what kind of assessments do you want for these children? Tell me in your like magic, crazy Santa elf land where all these things happen at like the snap of a finger. What do you have? What do you get? How do you do it?
Brain scanners. We can tell
Brain-
exactly what they know.
Okay, let's pull it back.
You said.
So Jordan, you look like you want to say something.
I don't know.
What do you want to know from them? How are you going to get it out of them? How are you going to get the things you want to know? Just based on the basic learning goals that you know that high school choir, high school orchestra, high school band, middle school, blah, 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 same thing. Based on what you think the overarching learning goals are for that, what should kids be able to do when they leave those classes? How do you want to get that out of them? What are the best ways, if given everything you could ever want or need besides a brain scanner?
Brain scanner.
The ability and the time to do playing quizzes/assessments in groups, small settings, individual settings, like being able to go, like, okay, everyone else disappear for like 20 seconds, you know, can I just hear the trombones and the French horns playing this section, you know, and yeah, I don't know, that would be nice.
So playing quizzes that are individual, small group, was there something else that I missed? You said that, okay, that was it. Anything else?
Yeah.
How often, well, let's ask a clarifying question. How often would you want to be able to do them?
Oh gosh, I would love to do that every day if we could, but it's totally impossible.
We're going with our magic fairyland thing. Imagining we have all the time, we could do it every day. What other things did you do?
I want them to be able to look at a score and be able to tell me stuff about it. So, time signature, the relationship with the instruments, or blah, 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 blah.
So look at the score, tell me about interaction, musical elements in the score.
Be able to interpret standard notation.
There we go. Interpret.
There you go.
I may or may not have the standards pulled up.
So interpret.
Keywords.
Well, no, for those of you that are in the 316 class, let me go ahead and make a very obvious transfer for you here. When we're talking about what Matt wants them to be able to read a score, and the transfer here, the transfer from music to written, like English literacy, what he's looking for is comprehension. Think about what comprehension when you read a book is. You read a sentence and you understand the context, you understand the action, you understand how it fits into the larger story as a whole. That's comprehension, right? That's exactly what Matt wants. He wants reading comprehension as far as musical literacy is concerned. So by the way, those of you, that's gold. I'm telling you, I'm patting myself on the back right now. That
word
is
for
gold
word.
that
You would make it 16.
She would love you.
Well, one of my comprehensive exam questions that I wrote on for 3 days when I took my comprehensive exams for my PhD was all about literacy in the music classroom and their corollaries in written, like English. So if you want to know things about that,
I come to you so I teach lessons in that class.
I know, and that's fine. Use your resources. That's why we're here. It's a fun thing for me. I enjoy it. So essentially, we're looking for comprehension in music literacy. What would that assignment look like, Matt? What would you have them do? Would it be like a written thing? Would it be?
I would imagine parts of it being written, because I just like the idea of writing. I feel like
Okay.
it's written.
It's a written thing. How often would you want them to be able to do it?
I don't know, so what I imagine leading up to it is like learning a lot of basic stuff, like, and then I feel like that would be like the like cumulative kind of like,
Like a capstone sort of
Yeah.
project. Okay, so like a one-time capstone thing. What else would you want done? What other things would you guys like, given magic powers and all the time and resources?
The ability and time to teach improvisation.
Yeah.
Holler.
Correct. Because
And compose.
Yeah.
those of you in 316 land right now, is there a part of literacy that involves improvisation and composition?
Most likely, yes.
You all speak the English, right? And it's not written down on a script right now? How do you do that? How are we doing this right now? We're improvising right now.
Wait, so you're saying music is a language?
No, it can't be.
Is it a universal one? Maybe not, but is it? Sure, I agree. It has its own written symbology that requires like deciphering and has pagination and absolutely.
Oh, my chest.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make the world cave in.
Oh, it's great.
What else? So we want playing quizzes, we want music literacy comprehension as a capstone, we want the opportunities to improvise and compose on the reg.
On the read.
What else do you want? What else do you want them to be able to do?
I want them to explore new music.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
I want them to explore new music, it sounds really good.
Like,
I'm
I
not
think
sure what
I
it
think
looks
it'd be
like.
really awesome for them to not only write their own music, but be able to talk to people like composers who are writing music. And it's,
So like a little bit of critique, maybe?
yeah,
To evaluate music.
yeah.
In terms of aesthetic qualities. Aesthetic, not aesthetic, sorry.
So evaluate music, you want them to be, how often would they do this here, evaluate
Regularly.
regularly?
That term's gonna be
On the reg.
evaluate musical performances.
What else?
In English.
Ooh, culture
What about it?
No,
around the world, how music functions, how different people contribute.
How
from
music
different-
There's more than
functions in the
America.
world.
There's a country more than America?
Music history.
no, we're in the center of the world.
Theory. I don't know. For me, not talking about like super specific things, but I think it would be so awesome to be able to incorporate a ton of the stuff that like all the different classes that we're teaching, or we're not teaching, we're learning right now, like theory and history and music history and those kind of things into the band world, but that just doesn't happen.
We have a good list. I like our list. I think it's an ambitious list. And I think that if I said to you, okay, make it so. Like, get a little Jean-Luc Picard here. Make it so. Make all this happen right now.
Got it.
Figure out how you're gonna do it.
Got it.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do. When you come in on Thursday, don't have it all worked out, have some ideas, okay? Have some ideas about how often, realistically, when you don't live in Magic Fairyland, where you have all the time, resources, and abilities to do this, how often do you really see yourself doing individual playing quizzes or small group playing quizzes? And what do you need in order to make that happen? The people that do pass-offs every week, what do they have that the people that don't have? What setup do they have? What kinds of, how do they organize themselves to be able to do that? What does that look like? If you don't know, use your imagination. Think about what if you had to do it, how would you need to set yourself up? What's your idea? I want to have a 65 member band, and I want to be able to do pass-offs once a week. What do I need to do to make that happen? Or whatever you think the appropriate interval is. If you say it's every 2 weeks, or if you say it's twice a week, what do you need to be able to do that? How long realistically will it take? How much material are you going to have them play? If you're going to have them do small groups where, say, well, in a string orchestra, you have 4 sections, which makes you much more able to do this than say a band, like a full concert band that has clarinets, flutes, oboes, like all that. A string orchestra has 4 sections. Yes. 5 sections. We've got 5 because your second violins are usually doing something different.
Yeah.
And that's great. So 5 sections. How do you, if you want to play as 5 sections, what if you want to break it down into something different than that? Say you have 65. Can you individually assess the first violins, the whole section? If you think not, in a 65-member group, what's the size of the group you have to, like, what's the smallest, least common denominator if you'd be able to do that? Okay, then we have comprehension, that musical literate comprehension. Look at a piece of music, look at, say, a choral octavo, look at, a piano reduction of the score, and be able to tell me what's going on in this here piece, whatever it is you want them to know. How often do they need to do that? What do you need to have set up in order to make that happen? How do you have to, what sort of time do you need to build in to make that a reality? Improvisation and composition. We've talked a little bit this semester about how to have them do some relatively short composition and, make that thing a reality. Like, how do they do that? How do you make that really happen? Evaluate music on the reg. How do they do that? And then just the general big old bubble envelope of how music functions in the world. How are you going to get them to come to an understanding of how music functions here or there, or in this culture, or in this time, or in this place, or whatever? How do you get them to do that? What does it look like to you? Make it conceivable. Think about, if I really did this, I think this is worth doing. Make it a reality. Bring ideas for that. That's what we're going to do Thursday. Because the thing that's technically supposed to be due on Thursday is your grading scale for your handbook. We're going to push that back a little bit because I don't know about anybody else. If I said right now make a grading scale.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know anything in this class. Like when stuff is due, because I'm just like, because we're so.
We are screwed up on our calendar for sure.
So I don't even look at it because
I don't blame you. 'Cause
Wow.
the new
It's not
ones-
helpful.
You tell us, I'll put it down now in my memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like whenever you can give us something like that we are sticking with,
For real.
because
yes.
I don't want to even.
Yeah, that's why you guys don't actually have a thing at the moment. It's because I can't actually give you a thing that's real right now. I have
That's
to wait
fine.
until everyone is, but that's why.
I just don't want to be surprised the day before and I would freak out. 'Cause
No.
I would.
You guys know I'll never do that to you.
What's the difference between a real book and a fake book?
I just did that.
Is there?
I don't know!
I don't know that there is.
What was it, Drew?
What?
Stop.
That was a tangent,
Like,
but it was
fake books like people
Wait,
like
what?
read out of.
You guys, like, in music, you guys know that fake books and real books are things, right?
Like
I
the
knew a
like
fake
big,
book was.
What's a fake book and a real
things
book?
like for
Where-
like
fake
for
books are
like
like-
stuff,
well,
or,
usually
like
they have
Disney.
Broadway
They have,
shows.
yeah,
That
they
are
usually
like-
have lyrics,
Yeah.
chords, and maybe the melody written out, but I don't know the difference. Like, why would you have different names for them?
Does it,
What's
well,
They're
What's the,
functional.
I've never heard of a real book.
we
though.
should Google this. The real book is.
What?
is
The real book
jazz.
is usually the
I
jazz.
have no idea what's happening.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
I'm
transitioned
just, I'm
because
Anna transitioned without the rest of us, and now we're here, and that's fine.
no, sorry.
It's 100% okay. I wouldn't have
Okay.
even said that I would have entertained it if it wasn't.
I don't know how I got there, but we did.
So this is not an assignment, it's for class work. For class work, think about how you're gonna make these things happen. Now, if you're really good at making stuff up on the fly, make it up on the fly on Thursday. If you really need the mental time to say, I really wanna think about how I wanna do this so that I can contribute to class, then do that. You know what I mean? Come with your ideas on how to make these things a reality. And then going forward from there, I typically try to have assignments due on Fridays, but because we're missing so many things, and we missed so many days, and things got so screwed up with snow and now pet band, and because I can't hold pet band people responsible for things that I'm holding you responsible for. It's not fair to you or them. So we're gonna wait until they get back to have stuff that is due. You know what I mean? So that'll be after spring break, like everything that you're gonna do.
So we don't have to worry about anything until we get back from spring break. Like I don't have to worry about this class during spring break.
But aren't
I
some
don't
of
mean
us
it like
teaching
that.
the Tuesday when we get back though?
Yes, some of you are teaching the Tuesday when you get
Okay,
back.
but with the
you
lesson plan
planned
we've already
those.
written.
With the lesson plan you've
Okay,
already written.
that's completely fine. I just need to know if I have an assignment that I need to do
Nope,
over spring break.
you 100% don't.
Okay, because I'm cool if we do.
Now remember,
Consider it
the
like that.
Tuesday after, and I will send you guys an email and a remind, the Tuesday after spring break, it's the 17th, correct? Tuesday, March 17th, is that right?
Yeah.
Tuesday, March 17th, you guys will not have class. I will not be here. Elvis
Whoa.
will have left the building.
We're gone on the 19th for NTC.
This is why I didn't give you guys a schedule. I'm so glad that you just said that. How many, it's gonna be 1, 2,
Me
3.
and Kevin Brennan.
God bless America. We have to move on. I can't wait any longer on the choral teaching. I can't. So it'll have to be people that teach it or not you guys, and we're just gonna have to roll. I'm just gonna have to do it. I'm so sorry.
Wait, so we won't, what?
The crap. People that are gonna teach on Tuesday, or Thursday, rather, people that teach the Thursday that are gonna get back are gonna have to be not you three. You guys are gonna have to teach when, after that time. You guys will teach the next week. Oh, I'm so glad you told me though, because now that allows me to like give a real schedule that isn't gonna get screwed up by you guys being gone. So it's Kevin, Brandon,
Yeah.
Adam. You guys are gonna be gone March 19th. And the reason I'm not gonna be here on the 17th is because I'll be doing my dissertation defense at that time. So I will be coming with any luck, actual Dr. Soja during that time. Like I will be Dr. Soja when I get back.
That's
so
exciting.
I'm like,
We can throw
I'm
a
too
party, guys.
exhausted to be thrilled, but I will be when I get back. So, to answer questions about what is due when, March 19th, people will be teaching, it just won't be any of you three that are actually gonna be gone.
Yeah.
And then we'll finish up all of that teaching the next week, so I will get you guys, I'm so glad that you told me that, now that helps me actually really make the schedule.
I wouldn't have known that, or wouldn't have really thought about that if Tim wasn't calling me at that moment.
I'm really, really glad that Tim called, so tell him when you see him that I said thank you.
Thanks for interrupting my class.
Thank you, Tim. I've never welcomed an interruption more, because it actually helped me give you guys accurate info, which is great. So does anyone have any questions, just in general? Thursday's essentially just kind of another short talk it out day. What time is it? Anybody know?
2:30.
It's so time for you guys to go. So, be gone, in a nice way. I'm gonna upload this for everybody so that they can hear all of your fantastic insights. And, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. This was a good thing, guys. I hope you guys know that when I talk a lot, I'm actually being lazy. I'm being a lazier teacher than when I let you guys talk. It's easy for me to
I'm
talk.
gonna call Tim.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much easier for me to talk at you than have you guys do the thing and do it for yourselves. It's just like when you're not, let me be super careful about saying that I'm not meaning to equate you guys to 5-year-olds that are cooking in the kitchen, but imagine a 5-year-old that's cooking in the kitchen, you're trying to have them make pancakes. It's way easier for you to do all that crap than to let them do it. It's a hot mess sometimes when they do it, or it goes just so slow, and you're like, God, crappy eggs. You know, just put everything together. It's frustrating when you've gone through all the motions before and you've made pancakes a million times. Of course you can make them, but your kid's never gonna learn to make breakfast for themselves if you don't let them do it. So
That's a pretty good analogy.
it's one of my strengths. Again, patting on the back, analogies are one of my strengths. It's one of my only strengths as a teacher is being able to put together a decent analogy. I think it was it Katie's and no, it was Tyler's and Heaven's where I said, hey, can I borrow your hot comments right quick?
Oh,
Are you
yeah.
doing the whole thing? It's
Yeah.
fine if you are. That's
I mean, I'm not 100% sure I am, but
who's it gonna hurt? I have a copy of
I mean,
it.
yeah,
Um,
no difference to you.
Give me like 5 seconds.
Oh no, I have scheduled stuff for times that I thought I was gonna be back.
Right.
Well, this page, these two pages?
So-
Basically, that one measures, we don't need just a whole page.
That's okay, but 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be right back.